This is your host, Jane Hales, and welcome to today's episode of .Team Talks, a podcast all about driving transformative growth through innovative and everyday automation solutions. Let's dive in and start to tame your tech today. The process puzzle: decoding efficiency in business operations, cracking the code to smarter workflows and success. Let's begin the journey. Excellent. Well, Gavin Jones, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast across YouTube. You have got some fantastic shorts, you've got some fantastic podcasts and bits and pieces. The reason how we came to talk about things was the fact that you are a Microsoft Power Automate expert, and my team do the Zapier make kind of thing, and sometimes I get clients going, but I want to do more within my Microsoft, and it's one of those, who can I get to help us? It's great to get to know more about you, get to know more about your journey, and process is obviously one of the things that we talk a lot about, and I think we've got a lot that we can learn from here. It's fantastic, your career history, because I know you do this on many of your podcasts, starting off as an accountant, transformation, and business owner and consultant. There's a lot of great strings to your bows. So thank you, Gavin. Thank you very much for joining
thanks for having me.
Transformation manager, that title in itself, what is it? What did you do? And how did you actually get to that stage in your career?
That's a big question. But yeah, thanks for the kind words. Thanks for watching YouTube. Don't feel like I'm a well-known name, but perhaps I am. Don't often think of myself as a Power Automate expert. So thank you for badging me as one. I guess briefly, that transformation manager role, I've got a lot of breadth to know when I'm not the right person to use. But like we spoke about, it's that sort of bridging the gap between a normal person doing a normal job and some techie person that can help. And actually, they speak completely different languages. There's a lot of value in being that intermediary person. There's lots of experts on Power Automate, but I know enough to when it's actually needed to be used. I guess coming back to that transformation manager role, that was one of the best jobs I had in my corporate career. Sort of felt like all the roads were sort of leading up to that role, which was interesting. I sort of started in accounting after university, had a good time at university and not a good result. So I thought I need to get another qualification. And interestingly, at that time, I could have gone like computer science or accounting. For anyone that's done accounting would know, but you have to get a job, and then you have to do all your learning, like either weekends or evenings. And I just did like an intensive thing at weekends. So you're working 5 days a week, 2 full days, 9 to 5 at like accounting college in Birmingham at the time. And I always remember then a lecturer said, if you try to work yourself out of a job, you'll never be without a job. That sort of like stuck with me throughout my career. And so when you started then in corporate life as an accountant, everyone just assumes you're amazing at Excel. Like no one has ever in accounting gets trained on Excel. But as soon as you start work, everyone's like, you're financy, you can do Excel stuff. And even though people have been sold loads of like big programs to do the accounting and programs, everyone still just like chucks stuff out into Excel, even though there's loads of reports. It's like, I don't want that actual thing. I want something slightly different. So like the sales director will come down and say, can you just chuck that into Excel and do something? So, like my productivity gain and trying to work myself out of a job at the start of my career was like actually learning better Excel. Still now people, like you can manually do stuff, as you know, for ages and ages, and get the result, or you can just put a formula in and copy it down and you're done. This ridiculous temp job when I first started work that was like a 2-week fixed contract, sort out their fixed asset register. They showed me what to do, and they were literally printing stuff out on paper, using a calculator, and then typing it back into Excel. That's like how they told me to do the job that they wanted done over 2 weeks. And I was like,
crazy.
Is this serious? They literally just put a form in the top row, copied it down, and then spent half an hour checking it, because I'm like, surely that's not just what they wanted me to do. I've done it. But then in the ridiculous position where I'd done it too quickly, then the person that hired me would look bad because it just got signed off for 2 weeks. And then they were also too busy, so no one ever gave me anything else to do. So I just sort of sat there. And when you're younger, it's like, it'd be good to get paid for doing nothing. And it's awful because like I don't think the internet was invented. So it's not even like I could do anything else. I was literally just sat in an office, not doing anything. My sort of first sort of productivity, trying to work myself out of a job, was more focused on Excel. It was pretty dull. It's like going into the help menu and learning it from help. And I guess like you always tried to get promoted and wanted to get on and make more money, make your current job that's this big down to this big in time, so you can like take more stuff on and progress. Then moved out of finance into supply chain and logistics, into demand management and forecasting, slightly related. And like the next pivotal moment in my career working life came when you're in supply chain. I guess a bit like IT support, you can never do anything good. You're either like you're doing what's expected or you're messing it up. Like you've either delivered the goods that someone wanted or they're delayed by some amount, especially in forecasting. So it's not a particularly nice environment. But my job was to like do some longer term forecasting, but you always like getting brought into the short term. And it was supposed to be brand focused, not product. But then you get brought into pretty much just doing everything, firefighting. You know, wanted to get promoted and more money, but also like at that time wanted to find a wife and start a family. And it's like, well, I don't have any time to do that. I was absolutely miserable. You know, you got to the stage where like I can't work any more hours to get anything done. I guess a lot of people can cope with like fluctuations in work, or I'll just work a bit extra today and then it's done. But, you know, if you just get piled more and more stuff on, you get to the stage where I can't possibly do everything. I was known for my post-holiday blues. I come back and like, I'm absolutely miserable. But looking back, it's really coming back in thinking, is this worth my life? Is this really what my life has become? I've just been away for this fantastic holiday, and then it's like, oh, God, come back to this. And that's a pivotal moment. At that point, I was just getting sort of depressed and, you know, stuff put on top. I luckily had a decent boss, and he's like, Gav, don't care if you want to go to his meeting or not. I only care about this one metric. If you get that metric, I don't care how you do it. If you want to go to the meetings, go to his meeting. And that was quite a pivotal thing. I guess stress is just put upon yourself. It's like you have to accept the stress and accept the work and accept other people's expectations of you to feel the stress. If you don't feel that, if it's hierarchical in an organisation, you feel a bit like someone's senior telling me to do stuff, or like I need to do it. My boss was good enough to say, well, just get me this metric, don't know how you do it. And so that was quite a pivotal shift of actually we should be measured on results and not time at work. Then, you know, for the next few years in corporate life, I was like the one realising no one cares. Literally no one cares. You walk out of a meeting, they don't even ask why you're not coming back to listen to the first 5 minutes, and you don't need me. If you need me, get me after kind of thing. So you just then got quite passionate about, say, saving time at work. You take it on yourself to like free up time for yourself, and then get so far, then you're like sort of epiphany, like no one else is working in the same way. And so I guess that was the next step of getting into that transformation manager role after bigger system implementations and involved in some, you know, technology projects, working projects to make the organization run better. The transformation manager role was really the sales director. I've got a hunch that was spending too much time on internal stuff and not enough time selling. Go and do something. And taking everything that I'd learnt there and the epiphany of everyone needs to change at the same time. Because if you just, I say, caveat that, doing a change for everyone at the same time is usually not a good idea. But overall, you need a plan of changing everybody together, like change the culture about how you're going to work together, because actually it's the biggest time waster, like people having meetings, and there's a bit of process stuff in there. Then I kind of felt like the knowledge workers have just been sort of left behind. Quite a few IT projects like, oh, imagine when you can get all your reports done instantly, or imagine when you can just do this. And worked with some business process people and like mapping out the process, but then you're missing out all of the other collaboration. All the human bit is completely missed out. It's like, have you got a process when this bit of process goes to marketing? No, don't touch marketing. It's a bit woolly and we don't really know what they do. It's like, well, they're doing quite a lot of stuff. Maybe we need to. And then even the sales process, if you've got your promotion and your pricing, you put it into this system, and then that puts it through all the way to finance and supply chain. They can make it, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But how do you get that price? Oh, we don't worry about that. That's like some woolly thing. We actually need to go to speak to the customer and do a presentation. All of that collaboration stuff, all the bits actually taking the time is like not even covered. And all of the processy bits, like we've got a dead good process, we've got SOPs, all of the knowledge worker bit, I felt, well, that's the bit that needs to be attacked. That's the bit that's wasting the time. So that was that transformation manager role, and it happens to use Microsoft because we're already paying for it. And so the CIO is bought in because he's getting more out of his subscription. But it's about, let's take the bits of time that knowledge workers are doing. It's like, well, people still need to collaborate, not trying to take human collaboration away. It's just trying to make it in a better way. And before the pandemic hit, but especially post-pandemic, where people need to work wherever they are, I guess sales guys have always worked that way. They've had to use teleconference things, to use one of the best managers usually in sales, because they've had to work and keep people upbeat and all that stuff for sales. But they've always been remote. So that was the best place to start thinking like Microsoft Teams first, because it sets up so much other stuff in the background. So like, we're not going to have a meeting, we're not going to have an email. It's going to live in Teams. The file's going to live in Teams. Like, all of your day job is in Teams. To try and create like the digital equivalent of an open plan office where you can bump into people serendipitously. You don't know they're working on stuff, but you can kind of overhear them in text chat. But at the same time, you're not getting interrupted. So same as if you went into the office and everyone's just chatting about what they watched on TV. It's like, oh, I need to get some work done, or stick my headphones on, or go to a quiet bit of the office. But we need a digital equivalent of that as well, empowering people to manage how much or how little information they get notified about, then helping them get things done. So quite a lot of people use their email as their inbox, which is, I think, a terrible idea, but if it works for you, then fine. But there's better ways of doing it, including, like you mentioned at the start, some like basic automations where if you've got this process that's a series of meetings, it's like, well, who's making the decision? What information they need to make that decision? Why do you need the meeting? Like, sometimes it's important to have the meeting, but if you've just got a workflow to get that sign off and they've got everything passed between the people and got it all, and everyone knows, it's like that actually takes away quite a lot of bad meetings. And so it's like, well, let's just get that knowledge process sort of sorted and automated, freeing up time to do all the nice stuff that sort of gets merged into all the other processes when you've got an organization that wants to be a nice place to work. So it's like, well, just allowing people different styles. And you just have a meeting specifically for that. It's like, if you want to do like a nice place to work, then if you've freed up and everyone's finishing their work like 2 hours early, cool, then just all go to the pub or go to the coffee shop, do some team building-y stuff. That last bit is like freed up enough time that actually you can start to think about how people want to consume information that's being sent around, like using more intranet-y type technology, but empowering anyone to make it. So I guess the intranet is usually a place where information goes to die. There's like HR policies that are 3 years out of date, might go on there to go book a holiday, but probably no one's going on it that much. If it is stuff on there, it's like usually top down. But if you like empower everyone to make intranet pages, it's more like what's going on the shop floor, for want of a better word. So it's like, well, marketing can show us what's the stuff they're doing on, sales can go and show us what's happening in store, supply chain can show us stuff going out the door, and it's like a nice, vibrant place to work. And you might actually pick up some stuff you don't already know that's not like corporatized. We had some analytics that Microsoft provided, scans everyone's emails and meetings, anonymizes it, and then you can see some groups of how people are working together, which one showed the hunch was right. You were spending loads of time on internal stuff and not enough time with externals. But also that approach saved like 3 hours per person per week and decreased after hours work by 30%. Then that I thought, I want to go and help other people do that. I've always been passionate about saving people time at work. So I was always the person that people ask, like, how do you do X, Y, Z in, Excel, or how do I make a PowerPoint slide do this and make it all whizzy?
I think that's sensible. That's an interesting point about there's probably better ways you could work than you are at the moment. To me, that's almost like a dreaming element. I'm speaking to my clients going, there's so many better ways. And it's almost, where do they start to understand the other things that are possible? And where do you start in helping them on that journey to show that there is possible? As you say, if you're not into reading a big document or a big video, what are those little pointers or signposts that would speak to somebody that says, actually, there is a better way than this, and it's that direction?
Yeah, interestingly, I'm always just like trying to listen to what problems people have got, and I say, well, I think I can help, and here's how I can help. I do have a few calls that they're just interested in finding out what I can do. What problems have you got? And they're like, I don't know. Okay, well, I might help tease you out a problem. Are you losing stuff? Have you got files everywhere? Don't know where to save it? Are you struggling with which version to get? that's like a common problems, like because Microsoft doesn't make it that clear, let's say politely, where things are or what different apps are called. It could be easier if like people put stuff in their OneDrive and don't realise that's not the same as SharePoint. But then they put stuff from OneDrive to SharePoint. It's like, oh, the version's different. Or they'll put stuff into Teams, but they've already got a SharePoint site. And they say, well, we're supposed to use the SharePoint site, but they put it into Teams, and then they haven't aligned the two. So they're actually two different versions. Or they go into Teams chat, and that's moving the file back into their OneDrive in a different folder than the one that they had before. And they might work on there in chat and they go to Teams and it's not the same version. So there's a lot of different ways you could lose stuff if you haven't simplified how you're going to set up your structure and how you're going to work together. To start with, that's usually a good trigger. Or people are just like, well, we're now using Teams calling and Teams chat. We don't really know what else it can do, but we've heard it can do loads of stuff. It's usually why people sort of come in. And there was one call that was, I really want to get into Power Apps. Cool, what do you want Power App for? Well, our expenses policy's terrible because there's loads of mistakes and people don't get paid. Well, it's worth fixing. What have you tried? It's like, well, it goes wrong because it's an Excel process. There's no validation in the cells and people overtype it. It's shared and then it gets passed, emailed around. We want to build a Power App so that it's locked down and people can do it on the phone. It's like, right, why don't you just fix the Excel sheet? Well, people like the app. It's like, right, but it's going to cost you, I don't do them, but courses you can do for like £1,000 a day. It'll teach you how to make an app, but it won't be the app that you want to make. So you still got to learn it and then make the app that you want to make. And then it will break because all apps break at some point. So you need a backup process anyway, which is probably going to be the Excel sheet. If you just fix the Excel sheet, you can still fix it. And I was like, why don't you just get, there's other apps that someone's already made that do expenses. Why don't you just pay for there? Oh, well, we don't have a budget. Like, right, well, if you don't have a budget, then you're not about to learn the Power Apps and then to make the thing. So it's like, well, you're spending money from that internal person doing all that work, but why do you want to do it? Because if it's not right for your organisation and it's not going to get you any benefit, then just do nothing. It's the easiest thing you can possibly do. It doesn't cost you any money, and if nothing's broken, don't fix it. But if it is broken, it probably is, because lots of people don't work in a way that they could, then it's probably worth looking at. And you might want to decrease risk for the future. So if you're growing, your process is probably going to break down. How people collaborate together is probably going to be different than it is right now if you go from 5 to 200 people. So I thought, well, let's make the people's lives easier. I was trying to land it in a pain or business benefit rather than like a techie thing of like have your entire workspace on Microsoft and it'll be cool. There's no point in really selling all the whizzy stuff, because if they just want the whizzy stuff for the sake of having whizzy stuff, most people hate change. So let's try and seed in some ways of working with the people that do care, then try and get everyone else on board as well. What's in it for the people that are going to have to work in a different way? What's the communications plan going to be? How are we going to seed it in? Who's delivering the message? Like, is it coming from the top down? Is it coming from their peers? A bit of both. How are you going to reinforce it? All the sort of usual, obvious sort of change management stuff. But
There's statistics out there that up to 70% of CRM implementation projects fail. For many of those reasons you've just mentioned. I've spoken to 2 people this week that are on their 3rd one already. But followed by all thing is another issue from the entrepreneur's operating system, isn't it? So you've got great processes. People aren't doing all of these great things. They're making those mistakes. As you say, people change. And the more you can think about automating those things behind, joining them up with tech behind, the less there is to go wrong by accident, isn't there? That kind of thing. So you are all moving in the same direction. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Team Talks today. We hope you found that aha moment to help you on your journey towards automation and business growth. Don't forget to subscribe in the link below and tune in next time where we'll explore. Until then, remember to tame your tech and keep pushing those boundaries.